Ever feel like your wallet is playing a game of chicken with all those scary economic like your money's saying, oh, you think there's a recession coming? Watch me buy this limited edition coffee maker.
That's a feeling I think a lot of us can relate to. We hear about potential economic storms, but day-to-day spending often tells
Exactly. And today, we're diving deep into a fascinating stack of news and insights to figure out what's really going on with how we as consumers are behaving.
Yeah, try and make sense of it all.
This treasure trove comes to us courtesy of the news aggregator podcast, Consumers 360, on consumers.app from April 24th, 2025. That's 042425, Consumers 360.
Right.
We're going to unpack everything from where our money's actually going to some surprising shifts in areas like moving and even medicine.
And our goal really is to pull out the key insights from all this information, give you a clear, understandable picture of these trends without, drowning you in details.
Okay, let's jump right into this apparent contradiction. Why are we still spending, relatively normally when there's so much economic uncertainty floating around?
Well, the CEO of Mastercard actually observed that consumer fears haven't yet significantly hit their spending.
Really?
Yeah, particularly when it comes to things like travel. It seems that wanderlust is maybe stronger than the worry, for now at least.
Huh. And consumers research looked into this too, didn't they? About how forecasts affect spending.
They did, yeah. And their findings kind of echo that Mastercard point spending's holding fairly stable despite the anxieties people might feel.
So maybe it's that desire for experiences, like you said, travel, acting as a buffer.
Could be, or just deciding to enjoy the present, even if the future looks a bit hazy.
Makes sense. Now, speaking of understanding these feelings, consumers research mentioned a study about gauging consumer confidence differently, not just surveys, but online news.
Yeah, this is a really interesting approach. Instead of just relying on surveys, which can be, delayed or subjective.
Right.
This study suggests that by tracking economic keywords in news articles, how often they appear, the sentiment around them, we can actually get a predictive sense of consumer feelings.
So it's like the news itself becomes a kind of economic barometer, reading the collective mood indirectly.
Exactly. Less about asking, are you worried? And more about listening to the conversation.
Interesting. Consumers research also brought up the Keynesian cross model. Can you break that down for us, non-economists?
Sure. Basically, think of it as a simple way to visualize how total spending in the economy, that's government spending plus our consumer spending, interacts.
Okay.
And how that interaction determines the overall level of economic activity. It helps show how, say, government investment can ripple through and maybe boost consumer spending later.
Got it. So it's all connected. Now, here's something that raises an eyebrow a bit. Fortune reported that big credit card companies are stashing away more money.
Yeah, setting aside funds for potential losses. A rainy day fund, basically.
Even while we're apparently spending like crazy. That feels odd. Like they know something we don't.
Well, that's a sharp observation. While spending looks robust now, these companies are likely looking ahead. They might be anticipating those anxieties finally hitting spending habits, or maybe they're worried about how sustainable this spending is, given, rise in credit card debt.
Okay. So they see the spending now, but are prepping for a potential slowdown. And speaking of that debt, what does Fortune say about the bigger picture for the U.S. economy?
The research they highlighted suggests this growing debt isn't just personal, it's becoming a real concern for overall economic stability. High debt can crimp future spending, make the economy more vulnerable. It affects everyone.
Definitely a balancing act.
Okay.
Let's shift gears. How are we actually paying for things? Consumers research talked about the C2B model changing, especially cross-border.
Right. Consumer to business. What's really noticeable is the rise of local payment methods, LPMs, especially in emerging markets for online shopping across borders.
LPMs, like mobile money or local bank transfers?
Exactly. Things people in those specific regions already use and trust. It's huge for financial inclusion, letting more people shop globally, and it just makes the checkout smoother, more familiar.
Makes sense meeting people where they are, payment-wise.
Huh.
Now, the digital world isn't all sunshine, is it? Consumers research mentioned digital deception.
Yeah, the challenge there comes from really sophisticated data analysis being used for targeted offers.
Personalization can be good, but
it can also be used to subtly mislead. Maybe hide key info, create false urgency. The idea now is to maybe shift the legal focus towards the patterns of deception, not just the specific tech used.
So focus on the harm, not just the tool. Interesting. Let's switch to something more positive. The prosumer economy. Consumers Research mentioned this too. What's that about?
It's really a move towards a more ecologically and socially responsible way of doing things. It's about a closer, more synergistic link between consumers and producers. Think sustainability, ethical practices, value beyond just profit, like community-supported agriculture or businesses focused on fair labor and being green.
I like that. More conscious, more collaborative. Okay, specific sectors. The News Tribune reported Safe Ship Moving Services is seeing more demand for virtual planning and flexible schedules.
Yeah, and if you connect that to what consumers research found about tech influencing behavior and how much we value convenience,
right,
it makes perfect sense. People want flexibility. They want to manage things remotely on their own time. Virtual move planning offers that efficiency.
So even something as physical as moving is going digital for convenience. Definitely a sign of the times. The News Tribune also had that interesting link between hobbies and adopting new tech.
Yeah, that was fascinating. Research suggests people really involved in serious leisure, committed hobbies tend to be earlier adopters of innovations.
Why is that?
The thinking is they often have broader experiences. They're more open to trying new things related to their passion, and they might just bump into new tech through their hobby.
Like a keen photographer grabbing the latest camera tech first.
Oh.
Makes sense. And what drives how fast innovations spread generally, according to the News Tribune?
It's a mix. First, us are individual characteristics. Are you an early adopter type or more cautious?
Okay.
Second, the innovation itself. Is it easy to grasp? Does it offer a clear benefit? And third, our social circles, what are friends saying? Are they using it? Sometimes really radical ideas get buzz but take longer to catch on widely compared to simpler improvements.
And so who we are, what it is, and who we know. Got it. And how does our behavior shape new business models, like that pay what you want example from the News Tribune?
Well, consumer behavior is really the key. That pay what you want model completely depends on understanding our psychology, our sense of fairness, the social aspect. Businesses have to get what makes us tick for those models to work.
It's a bit of a gamble for them then. The News Tribune also noted innovation is increasingly focused on sustainability.
Definitely. We're seeing a clear trend. New products, new services being designed with the environment in mind. It reflects that growing consumer demand for eco-friendly options.
That's good to hear. But it must be tough for companies to keep up with all this change, right? The News Tribune mentioned challenges.
Oh, absolutely. It's constant. Keeping ahead of tech changes, shifting consumer tastes. Companies need to adapt fast, understand the market, invest in R&D just to stay relevant.
Sounds exhausting. Okay, let's pivot to something more personal. Health. Los Angeles Magazine had advice on gut health, and Consumers Research had related points. What's the takeaway?
The big message was the benefit of a whole foods plant-based diet for your gut. Consumers Research backs this up, highlighting the high fiber and the diversity of micronutrients you get.
Fiber feeds the good gut bacteria, right?
Exactly, acts as a prebiotic. And those varied micronutrients help digestion and your immune system.
So more fruits, veggies, whole grains, good for the gut. Simple enough. But Consumers Research also flagged potential nutrient gaps in plant-based diets.
Yeah, it's important to be aware. Things like vitamin B12, iron, maybe omega-3s can be lower, but you can definitely get enough through fortified foods or careful supplementation if you're eating plant-based. Just needs a bit of planning.
Good to know. Be informed. Consumers Research also mentioned progress in understanding the liver-gut axis. Sounds complicated.
It is complex, but fascinating. Research is showing how closely the liver and gut talk to each other, influencing metabolism, immunity, overall health. Understanding this opens doors for new nutritional approaches, maybe specific probiotics to support both.
Wow, it's all so interconnected. Consumers Research even mentions specific foods like immature lima beans and mushrooms for vegetarians.
Yeah, lima beans are good for amino acids, building blocks for protein. And mushrooms are a natural source of vitamin D, which can sometimes be tricky to get enough of, especially without much sun or through certain diets.
Practical tips, nice. And finally, on health tech, Consumers Research mentioned Nutrivision. What's their goal?
Nutrivision wants to use tech, like AI and computer vision, to help us manage our diets better.
Right.
Imagine pointing your phone at food and getting detailed nutritional info instantly.
Whoa.
The idea is to make personalized diet planning easier and help prevent diet-related diseases.
Our phones as diet coaches, the future. Okay, let's switch to the environment. WEAU reported on Royal Credit Union donating for a plastic recycling hub. Why did they do that?
According to Consumers Research, it's about both community development and sustainability. They see the hub helping reduce waste while also supporting the local community.
A win-win. And how does the hub help the Chippewa Valley specifically?
Well, it should significantly boost plastic recycling capacity there, meaning less landfill waste, plus better access to recycling for residents, maybe even educational programs.
Every bit helps. Consumers Research also mentioned some cool new recycling tech.
Yeah, some exciting stuff, like making reinforced materials from old fishing gear, turning ocean waste into something strong and useful, and using machine learning to sort plastics better, even tricky ones like black plastic.
That's brilliant. Turning trash into treasure. And what about that plastics hierarchy of fates tool from Consumers Research?
It's basically a framework. It prioritizes how we should deal with plastic waste. Top of the list, reduce use altogether, then reuse, then recycle, then maybe recovery like generating energy, and disposal is the absolute last resort. It guides more sustainable choices.
Makes sense. Think before you toss. Now, a different challenge. Senior housing. MarketWatch reported it's scarce. People are buying before they need it.
Yeah, that really highlights the issue. And Consumers Research lays out the big challenges ahead. Growing senior population, rising building costs, complex regulations, needing specialized care. Development just isn't keeping up with demand.
Sounds like a looming crisis. But Consumers Research mentioned AI helping in senior living.
Right. AI is being explored to automate tasks, improve safety monitoring, maybe ease staffing shortages by reducing reliance on human caregivers for certain things, trying to make senior living more efficient and supportive.
Technology stepping in again. And what about HUD's role in senior housing?
HUD housing and urban development is crucial for affordable options, especially for low-income seniors, through things like Section 8 rent assistance. Vital programs, but again, demand often outstrips the supply.
Clearly a big area needing attention. Okay, another demographic trend, fertility. Deseret News looked at why women might delay starting families. Consumers Research added context.
Yeah, Consumers Research noted that cultural factors like strong religious beliefs or traditional family values are still linked to higher fertility in the U.S. These norms often emphasize marriage and kids.
So culture still plays a big part. But why the overall decline in fertility in developed regions, according to Consumers Research?
It's a mix of factors. Higher income and education levels, changing personal values, perhaps prioritizing careers, more women in the workforce, and, of course, widespread access to contraception. Gives people more control over family size and timing.
Complex changes. And Consumers Research mentioned sub-replacement fertility. What's that?
That's when the birth rate is below what's needed to keep the population stable long-term, usually around 2.1 kids per woman. Many developed countries are below this, but populations might still grow due to immigration or longer lifespans.
A key number to watch. Okay, let's talk retail money. Newsweek discussed changes in cash management. What's new?
Big shift towards digital payments, obviously. Mobile wallets, contactless. It's convenient for everyone. Plus, retailers are using more cloud-based systems to manage cash flow better, get more insight.
Feels like cash is fading. How are startups and banks competing here? Per Consumers Research.
Startups often bring the cool new tech. They're agile, focus on specific user experiences. Banks have the established trust, the infrastructure, regulations know-how, and offer broader financial services alongside cash management.
Agility versus incumbency. And what about digital currencies? Any role there?
Potentially, yes. Things like central bank digital currencies or even crypto could offer faster, maybe cheaper transactions down the line. But there are still big regulatory and tech hurdles to overcome. It's still early days.
Lots of unknowns. What challenges do retailers face adopting these new systems, according to Consumers Research?
Costs are a big one, implementing new tech. Then there's data security worries, training staff, making sure new systems work with old ones, and, getting customers comfortable with new ways to pay.
Not always a simple switch. Consumers Research also mentioned debit cards impacting cash use.
Yeah, research shows a clear link. The more people use debit cards, the less physical cash they tend to keep on hand. Convenience wins out.
Makes sense. I hardly carry cash myself. And what's needed for digital money to really work well in retail, according to Consumers Research?
Two key things. Systems need to work together smoothly, interoperability. Transactions need to be final and secure, ideally backed by central bank money. And crucially, you still need access to physical cash for those who need or prefer it. Trust and accessibility are huge.
Got it. Digital needs to be solid, reliable, and inclusive. Now, Fortune also mentioned buy now, pay later, BNPL mixing with credit cards.
Right. Seeing a trend, especially with younger folks, using credit cards to pay off their BNPL installments. It offers flexibility, sure, but it's also a way to potentially rack up debt faster if you're not careful, paying interest on the credit card for the BNPL purchase.
Sounds like it could get tricky. Finally, Fortune looked back at 2023 spending trends. Any key points there?
Yeah, it highlighted how government spending still plays a role in economic stability, the impact of financial cycles on debt, and importantly, that those pandemic-era policies are still influencing how we spend now. Financial literacy and careful credit use remain really important.
Always a complex picture. Okay, wow, we've covered a lot of ground. Let's try to pull it together. What are maybe 3 big themes emerging from all this?
Okay, 3 things. First, I'd say it's the resilience, maybe the shifting priorities of the consumer. Despite all the economic anxiety, spending's held up, especially on experiences like travel.
Right, valuing experience.
Yeah, maybe short-term optimism. But then you have the credit card companies getting cautious, rising debt. So there's an underlying awareness of risk, too. It's a tension.
That push and pull. Okay, what's number 2?
Second, just the accelerating intersection of technology and daily life. It's everywhere. Virtual moving help, AI in senior care, AI for nutrition.
It's becoming embedded.
Totally. Offers amazing convenience, efficiency, but also raises big questions about data privacy, access for everyone, and as we discussed, potential digital deception.
The double-edged sword. Got it. And the third takeaway.
Lastly, I think it's the growing emphasis on sustainability and ethical consumption. It feels more visible now, the prosumer idea, plastic recycling efforts, eco-friendly innovation. Consumers seem to be demanding it more.
And valuing it more.
Exactly. This could really drive major changes in how businesses operate and how we choose to spend our money in the coming years.
That's definitely hopeful. So let's bring it back to the listener. What does all this mean for you? How might these trends affect your life?
That's the real question, isn't it? Are you, for example, finding yourself spending on experiences despite the gloomy news? How are you handling all the digital integration and services you use? Is sustainability playing a bigger role in your shopping cart?
Yeah, thinking about these broad shifts can maybe help you make more informed decisions, right? About your money, your health, the services you pick.
For sure. Knowing about changes in payments might affect how you transact. Understanding the senior housing market could be relevant for your family down the road. It connects to real life.
Absolutely. Lots to mull over. Well, thank you so much for helping us unpack all of this today. It's been really insightful.
My pleasure. It was a fascinating set of trends to discuss.
And for everyone listening, here's a final thought to chew on. As those lines between our physical and digital lives keep blurring, what unexpected new consumer behaviors do you think might pop up in the next year or so?